recognize it reflects your philosophy.
That's right. This is a Jerry Garcia, collection. So it does reflect my philosophy, right?
All right, so we're going to go ahead and call the workshop to order at this time. I want to welcome everyone. And board, it's good to see you again. Mr. Soto, thanks for your time.
All right, you're welcome.
Yeah, it looks good. Superintendent and finance, I'll turn to you guys at this point for the presentation.
Thank you, sir. Todd will begin with Jose and Natalia.
Thank you, Board. As you know, we've been working hard upstairs to try to put a projection based off of the unknown. How's that for an opening statement? So we're going to walk through what we think is going to happen, or what has happened, and what we think is going to happen moving forward here. I all provided you with a budget book, a latest and greatest here, so I'm going to walk you through this document here. And there's page numbers on the bottom, and I'll reference those page numbers.
Todd, is this the...
Use the latest one I just handed you, where it was on.
Except I got 1,000 notes in my other.
Oh, okay, no, didn't use yours, that's fine. I think there was just two little
Couple
changes
of
I made.
adjustments, thank you.
Okay. And then for the public as well, I'll try to speak as loud as possible here. The opening cover, of course, we have our table of contents to discuss what's inside the document. We'll go into the introductory section. That's on page I-2. And that's just, there's some important dates here that we just have to adhere to. Right now we're in a budget workshop that's taking place today. But the next meeting to talk about the budget that will be presented to the board will be on July 14th. And then in a public hearing setting to adopt a tentative budget and millage rates, that will take place on July 28th. Followed by then the final public hearing that will take place on September 15th. The next couple pages here, I-3 through I-5 of the document, it's just your budget conventions, what is assigned fund balance, what's non-salary budgets. So it just kind of walks the public through that. It's going to get them on the same page as they work their way through the document. I'm going to take you to page I-6. This just shows you unweighted full-time equivalent students. You can see we're growing here in Osceola County. We had a downward cycle there just for a little bit in the 2008-09 year, but as you can see, we're trending upward. And for this upcoming year, we're projected to have 59,731 full-time equivalent students.
Todd, is that your projection? Is that the state DOE's projection? What is that?
Yeah, there's two different parts to this. The initial projection was by the state for Osceola County was 600 unweighted full-time equivalent student. I got them to increase that based off of the second survey count of October of the current year that we're in right now to project us out through next year. I got them to increase that up to 1,000 unweighted full-time equivalent students, right. And that's all they would increase it to. Based on where we fell this year, as of the third FTE survey that took place in March here, they showed that we increased. The state came back to us and allowed us to increase our projections, and that's why we're showing that we're growing here roughly by 1,200 students. 1,200 full-time.
And the state recognizes it at 1,000.
They recognize it as right now is 1,000.
Okay.
A little less than
1,600.
No, 1,200. 1,000, a little under 1,200 unweighted full-time equivalent student growth. Okay.
Kelvin, you have a question?
You're talking about, if I look at this chart right here, if I look at 2014-15, that's an actual number, 58?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And the 59,731?
Yes.
That's an actual number?
That's our projected number for the 2015.
Because that's the only one that's being projected at this time?
That's correct.
All right.
That's correct.
Another question, thank you.
And do we know how many of those are in our schools versus charters?
Yeah, I have it. The next page is
okay.
going to follow. Actually, you're looking at Mr. Willer right there. It's going to be on page I-7. And you can see on the first page of this, you can see it broken out by traditional schools by elementary, then middle, then high, and then multi-level. And when you're looking at this, it says the 2000, in the first column of it, we'll start with Boggy Creek. And this says that for the fourth calculation. When we're saying the fourth calculation, it's really the fourth FEFP calculation, which would include the third FTE calculation. I know it's confusing for the public, but this is our projection, what we think is going to happen with Boggy Creek for the 2015-16 school year. We're projecting that there's going to declining enrollment at Boggy Creek of 33.62 unweighted full-time equivalent students. If you draw your eyes down to a subtotal of elementary schools, we see that we're in a declining enrollment now in our elementary schools because of the charter school growth that we're seeing materialize here. Middle schools, we're breaking even there. Where high schools, we're seeing our growth. There's not too many charter high schools opening. The next page of the document, it shows those charter schools. Again, we grouped all the new charter schools. You'll see it's right above where it says subtotal charter schools. It says new charter schools. Right above that says 999. 9 is the center number. We're lumping it all in there right now because we don't know what charter schools we're going to open and for the next school year. We have an estimate now about 6 new charter schools are going to open. 5 of those would be in the K-8 realm and 1 in 9 through 12 grades. So, and you can see the
But
breakup.
the one opening of 9 through 12 is really only starting out with 9th grade, it's the first year, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, 4 Corners High.
First upper school.
The next page of the document would be on I-9. This just shows you a historical presentation and projected overview of your school-related tax roll and the millage rate that's levied every year and the revenue that's actually would be generated if you were collecting it at 100%. So the graph just kind of shows what's happening here in Osceola County, where you can see tax rolls were up in 2008-09, and then they declined, and now we're increasing again. Okay. The next page. Now this is, I want to take a little bit of time on this document, and it would be I-10. This is the fourth calculation where we're right now. That's an actual number from the state. That's the fourth calculation for the current year. What we're doing is for the next column over, it says 2016, it says projection. That's my best estimate of what I think is going to happen based off of the unknowns by the House and Senate and the governor's bill.
Tell us what you're absolutely projecting.
I'm projecting right now at the very
2%?
bottom that we're going to see a 2.2% increase over the prior year when it's all said and done. Now remember, they always start high at the beginning of the year. Just like they did this year, they started at 2.65%, but we only ended up with 1.65% of actual revenue increase per unweighted full-time equivalent student. I'm projecting, based on what I'm hearing at the House and Senate level, and the governor really wants to actually to see that the revenues per student higher than when it was in 2008. So I'm trying to use that as a baseline here when I'm doing the projection, and that's coming out to be right about 2.2% when it's a little higher than that, but because of the prorations that we get hit with every year, I'm backing that number back down to 2.2. So if I use the 3%, backed it back down, it's about 2.2%. Is everyone following me on the table? Okay, great. And what I did is how I'm using the House and Senate versions of their bills down in the FEFP detail, where it's lines 25 through 39 in there. I'm really using what the House and Senate are saying it's going to be, and then I'm backing into the BSA number on line 24. And that calculation you can see on line 20 through 22. Where the base student allocation I'm showing it would be about 4,080 when it's all said and done. The district cost differential did go down a little bit. They're saying it costs less, this upcoming year to live here than it does other places. Than it did in the prior year. That's what I'm saying.
When do you think we'll have our actual FTE numbers by the state, from the state?
FEFP projections as soon as they finish their
Special session.
because I know they're working really hard to try to get a budget out to us.
working hard with the word.
Yeah, the state's original estimate that they're using on line 14 of this, where they're showing school taxable value of 21.2, that is a good number, what we're seeing, because the property appraiser's office just sent us a report or a one-pager saying that it's going to be more in the realm of about $21.4 billion in school-related taxes. So we feel that's a good number right in there to use for our general fund and for our capital projects fund. The next couple pages that follow here, is there any questions on that last page? Okay. The next couple pages here, I-11 through I-15, it just talks about the various sections of the FEFP funding formula. I'm going to take you to I-16 of the document. And there's a couple graphs on there I just want you to take a look at. What it's looking like, I mean, the funding, as you can see, increased to 2010-11, and then we saw a slight reduction there. And then you can see that we're actually receiving more in FEFP funding than we did in prior years. But as we know, if you break it down per unweighted full-time equivalent student, it's really nothing more than, as a comparison, just as on this report, we're for the 2015-16 projection, we're showing that it's going to be $6,776, and compared to 2008-09 of this report, which was 6,711. So
8,000 less students.
So we're receiving basically about the same funding that we did several years back. That's all I want to say on that. And that goes back to my Gator Chomp graph, and I like to call it. It's not a good thing, when they're chomping away at public education here. But the thing that I like to just stress on this is in the middle of the column, you can see years are down the side, and it's in reverse order. Start 2016, then goes down, and then in the middle, if you draw your eyes across where it says BSA times DCD actual, that's the number that I really want you to focus on, because for 2016 we're projecting that to be about 4,019. Well, back in 2008, just for a base student, that's the starting point for the funding formula. It was 4,040. There's no inflationary factors here that's really taken into consideration. So that's why we're hurting so bad as far as having the available funds, to do the stuff that you really want to do here in Osceola County. Okay, I'm going to take you to the next page of the document. It's 1.2, 1.3. We're going to talk about the general fund just a little bit. I'm going to take you to 1.3, and that's just my estimate based on the unknowns right now. What's going to happen based off of that 2.2% increase over the prior year. I'm showing that the beginning fund balance for this upcoming school year will be right around 63.7, and that's based on if our operating surplus ends up in the current year at a deficit of 6.5%. I mean, yes, $6.5 million, not percent. So if you're looking at the 2015-16 year, if you draw your eyes down to line 5, I'm showing an operating loss of $4.7 million. And the reason for that operating loss, because originally we were going to show that we were going to operate at a balanced budget, is because it's really the board's desire, to the intent to provide a compensation package to all Osceola County school district employee members.
Todd, what is your capital transfer that you have out, that you have planned to still?
Yeah, it's on the next page. I can address that for you, sir. So for what the $4.7 million deficit is really made up of, it's a potential of maybe bonuses, health and wellness center of $2 million, the cost to construct that, one additional professional development day for support personnel, and additional supplements for our teachers. So that was kind of included in this initial budget that was put together about 2.5 weeks ago. So I just wanted to share that with you. And this, of course, is all dependent on the outcome of the negotiation process. The next page on 1-4 of the document is just a summary of your general fund budget. We're coming into this this next school year with a $63.7 million fund balance. And you can see those are the estimated revenues that are coming in. The majority of it's just really based off your Florida Education Finance Program, and you can see the various sources of revenues coming in. That total about $441 million. The appropriations there, you can see salary and benefits. That is increasing there over the current year right now, and that's really related to the benefit package that the board is proposing to offer or has offered. The other categories appropriations, you can see charters and choice that grew there, and that was really the major increase. Charters are growing faster, so they're taking a big chunk of the money, and we're seeing a little growth. We're seeing actually an increase in McKay Scholarship Program too.
Keep in mind though, with that $58 million for charter and choice, probably 70 to 80% of their money is also going for wages and benefits also.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, well, it says 58 million, I mean, you could
Yeah,
almost
I'm
add-
gonna come back on that.
You could almost add 50 of that to the 308 million.
Now, the transfers you asked about, Mr. Thacker, on line 12, the transfer from the Capital Projects Fund, as you can see, is about 13.8 here. It's being reduced a little bit, and really the reduction is due to charter capital outlay funding. That is actually the same allocation of charter school capital outlay funding is being appropriated for the next year, but there's, that it is in the current year, but there's more charter schools coming online, so that's gonna be further diluted, so I'm expecting our charter schools to receive a little bit less funding this year. That's why you see that transfer.
What was the transfer in 14-15? Was it around 15?
15.
Yeah, 15. Okay. On the, based on the long-range plan that I was sharing with you, is that I'm projecting that the total projected ending fund balance will be right about $59 million. And that's with a 4.7.
Is the discretional lottery, like, been cut by 75%? We used to get about $2 million.
The lottery, discretionary lottery is really related to those schools that are high performing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that goes up and down, so it depends.
Is A+ money in here anymore?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, that's the A+.
Yeah, that's it, plus.
Oh, so now just lottery money for that, okay, you
Yeah.
said lottery money for something.
Yeah. Is there any more questions on that, please? The next page of the document, 1-5 through 1-8, this is the line item request for the upcoming year as compared to the current projected expenditures where we think we're gonna end this year. I wanted, I sent this, something similar out to you, to the board about a month ago for you just to look at the request. I don't know if you had time to meet with the individual administrators. I just want to take you to page 1-8 of the document, and then I'm going to work backwards here. The grand total is no real increase on line items for the upcoming year. Now, I want to show you what's going on here. I want you to go back to page I-5 for me. This is the one that was a thorn in my side, and I'm just being honest with you, is line 23. It says Energy Savings Program. That is actually going away for the upcoming year. So we're saving ourselves a lot of money there.
What is that? Because I had that sort of.
That's,
Behavior
we hired a firm called Energy Educators that basically shared savings. They go do behavior modification where they guarantee you're saving you money, and it was not a program I think that we really should have done. But I'll admit, when we did it, there's a lot of things going right. I don't want to fight Mike Grego on that. And what this is that we send half the savings basically to this company in Texas, and we realize the other half.
So this should have been the total savings was another $1.2 million or something?
Yeah.
Or theoretically should have
Yeah.
been?
And we discussed this a little bit in our workshop.
A little
Yeah.
bit. I mean,
Yeah.
the
Yeah, we
diff-
talked about this a
the
little bit.
difference between this and what we're pursuing now is instead of sending that money to Texas, we're using that money to get us the infrastructure upgrades. It'll also lower the costs.
It was 35%.
That's 35.
Payment to the company was
Okay, so we saved about
35% of the
So did we
savings.
really save about $2 million?
Yes, I think, Todd, I think our utilities, we did.
Our utilities, we did see a reduction in
Yeah.
utility expenses, yes.
Yeah, there were savings.
Now, when we get rid of this, we've got the practices in place, we should still
We
achieve.
were already before
Yes.
this, we have the building automation systems, we have the personnel
And,
in-house to do it.
and the software equipment to do this with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, all that transfers to us now. That was part of that program where that, we own the software to it to actually manage the whole infrastructure throughout the whole district. And that's being, managed right now by which,
One.
yeah, okay.
We have one
And the
person.
One person that's
person.
doing it right
Jeff
now.
Peters on-
Behavioral
you said
changes.
sure.
Jeff is,
Systems.
Jeff.
working
Just
with,
Jeff?
maintenance.
Just one.
Yes,
Jeff.
goes through our maintenance department.
And we have somebody that's gonna monitor those behaviors and make sure they're staying in place?
That's the one
Jeff,
person.
yeah.
Jeff.
That's the one person.
Yeah.
And that'll go really hand in hand with what we talk about with the ESCOs tonight. Man, you're gonna have a great energy program, I'm telling you.
Okay, good.
Okay. Now,
Fiscally responsible.
yeah, and then the last part is on 1-6 of the line item allocation, line 74, where it says, the board, it says employee health and wellness center. That's the $2 million that we're gonna use to construct a new, health and wellness center.
So that's the capital cost or the operating cost? What is the?
That's gonna be paid for out of the general fund, not capital. This is employee benefit. That's gonna be, for the employee. So with that information, and there was minor changes throughout this, as you can see, as you work your way through it, we're actually breaking
Can we
even.
back up a second?
Oh, sure.
I'm very confused on that. Why are we going to take $2 million out of our general fund for that as opposed to taking the $2 million out of our capital?
Because fund, how, the accounting treatment for it is this is gonna be an employee benefit. So we're gonna increase the board contribution for this year, just for this year, that will be then, the money from the board contribution for that will be transferred to Fund 7 to pay for the clinic, and the Fund 7 has to support the health and wellness
I
center.
guess I feel like the operations of the clinic are the benefit, and to hit the whole general fund at one time for the construction seems a little different, but that's.
Yeah, but in
Yeah.
fairness, Clarence, I mean, if you take it out of capital, it's gonna take away from money we could build a new high school or middle school, et cetera, so. And the question I've got, though, you bring up a good point, though. Is where's our cost for health insurance?
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's at the very end. I included
Okay.
that schedule on this because I thought it was really important as we work through this, because that's, I'm leading up to that right now. Is there any more questions on the line item?
Not yet, but later probably.
Okay, I'm gonna then take us to page,
There's a $100,000 reduction in legal fees, $101,000. That's good. That's line on page I-8, line 33, I'm sorry.
133, no, there's actually an increase,
I thought it went down. Oh.
He's up 100.
100.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily for the retainer.
No, it's a legal.
It's for actual legal fees. Yeah. I'm gonna take you to page 2-3 of the budget book.
We're gonna keep going on here.
Yeah, that's something I'm gonna share with this board. It's interesting, but there is a catch.
Yeah.
So as you can see, the revenues this just shows the graphs and how much revenue is actually projecting, and for what has happened and what we're projecting in capital outlay tax, impact fees, and sales tax, now PICO. And that was one of the things, I'm glad you picked on Mr. Willard, because that's what I was gonna talk about here. Is on the PICO, the state, the Department of Education, if it is appropriated by the state, we could get 1.4 million dollars for the upcoming year. So, and that's incorporated right now into your capital plan. Remember, this is all projections and estimates. This is all going to change, because we still don't have a budget from the state. Okay. But if that does materialize, I'm going to show you how it all plays out. Okay. On the first page of your budget summary on page 2-4 of the document. This is in summary right now. It shows your beginning fund balances at the beginning of the 2015-16 year, and it's showing you at the highest level from revenue from capacity sources and non-capacity, and your appropriations for capacity and non-capacity sources. When it's all said and done, the total ending fund balance down below there is projected from both sources is about $44.8 million. Of that, capacity is $40.2 million, and non-capacity sources we're up from what we originally were projecting from the beginning of this current year that we're in right now. We're up to $4.6 million, and I'm going to walk you through that in a minute. First page, though, I want to go to is on your 2-5. This is for talking about capacity.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
And I may have missed it in reading while you were talking on something, but why are you referencing the 16-17 school year instead of the 15-16 school year? When you use that?
It should have been 15-16. Did I say
Okay.
6?
Yeah, you were looking at the other column.
I was looking at that. I must have been, sorry.
Is this, Todd doesn't have anywhere an estimate about the high growth funding formula?
Nothing's in there yet. Nothing. We don't know if that's going to materialize, so we're not putting it in here. The PICO, there's a high chance that it might materialize.
Yeah.
Okay. So page 2-5 of your document here shows these are carryover projects that's going on right now. If you look at the very bottom of the page where it says total ending fund balance, and you kind of draw your eyes across, you can see that because of the impact fee revenues that are coming in, we're building our little savings to build a future.
So why don't we have the high school in here?
We've got a plan that I want to sit down with each of you before, and then when he brings this back, we will have those projects on the outer years. There's still a few things that we're vetting through leadership as far as when the high school, the timing of it, and but that will come back. Todd, you're bringing this back in July?
Yeah. This is
Right.
just a workshop.
And everybody, yeah, right, yeah. You'll have several readings of it. I will meet with each board member individually, John and I, to go over those capital programs once leadership gets through them. But good question, Clarence, but it's certainly, it's there.
And that's actually where I was leading to. We're saving up here to build a potential high school.
High school? Let's build a real one.
Well, it all depends, on how things materialize as far as charter schools and stuff like that too. So I wanted to throw that in there as well. Moving on to the non-capacity sources on page 2-6 of the document. We're showing, because I'm including the PICO now, and that's an increase which we didn't budget in our 5-year capital plan in the current year, and for upcoming years we didn't plan any more PICO funding. We thought it was just a one-time. Based on what the state's estimates are, that we could potentially receive some more money out of PICO, I did include that presentation in here just as a presentation to show what it would look like if that did materialize. So we did get PICO funding of $1.4 million, and now we're also, based on the new tax roll information that came down from the state and that's supported by the property appraiser's office, we are seeing an increase now in our 1.5 mil capital outlay tax of almost $1 million there. That's helping us restore some of our fund balance at the bottom, down at the very bottom of this report. So we're, right now, with the current appropriations that we have in place, including debt service, and those, some of those carryover projects that we have that go on during the summer months, we're projecting we're gonna end the 2015-16 school year with potentially $4.5 million. That's an estimate. It's just an estimate, that's all it is. And it's based on PICO funding materialized, and it's also based in your capacity sources is based on, are we gonna get any money from the high growth? We didn't include that yet because we don't know if that's gonna materialize or not. That would have changed the presentation of that report. So this is just kind of showing.
I've just got a question here. When I look at this bus replacement of $1.1 million, it looks like 10 buses a year. What year are we gonna have a major problem? Because 40 buses over the next 4 years, when we have 400 buses, I mean, we're gonna have, if our fleet is 15 years old now, it's gonna be 22 years old.
Based on 10 buses a year, you will have buses for 39 years before you replace them.
Right, that's my point. So why, is this even reasonable? Do we need to be looking at this as a major problem area? I mean,
It is a problem here.
You know, we're probably not gonna have buses on the road at 39 years old. So somewhere, we've gotta look at this pretty hard and figure out. I'm sure somebody knows when we're gonna need to buy 60 or something to get back on track, or 100.
Mark has.
Yeah, and that's the problem. If we keep buying 10, there will be a year when we have
That's
to buy
right.
60 instead of buying 20 or 30 or.
And we will have additional money to pay for bus replacements if the PICO does actually materialize. So that's kind of how this is all playing out.
Okay.
It's all estimates, all
Are
projections.
there other categories in here? I mean, I can look at that and I can tell that's a major problem line. Are there other lines on here that somebody who knows far more about it than I do, that's another major problem?
School computers.
Yeah.
School computers at $1 million a year, what does that number need to be?
Angela, are you here? Russell?
When I first took over this position, they asked me to do a 5-year refresh plan. And I'd have to go back and look at the numbers I came up with, but for the student computers alone, at a 5-year refresh plan, we were looking at, I believe, 3.2 million. So they asked me to go back and look at the possibility of a 7-year, because they should be able to last 7. You're still looking at 2.6. So with the $1 million, it's really stretching it out.
I think we're gonna need to get something from you, Todd, I think, for us to look at that shows risk areas and what, this is what it is. You've got $1.1 million there. In all reality, for this number to have a 15-year cycle or whatever on buses, it needs to be X. To have a 5-year, 7-year refresh, it needs to be X. So we have some idea of what our holes really are, I think.
Yeah,
That's
it's in
correct.
line too with the conversation we had about facilities and when does it become mission critical? And
Right.
when there's no longer conversations about it, we're forced into a corner.
That's exactly right. I was gonna say deferred maintenance, we could absolutely show you.
I think we need, I feel like I need to see that. I don't know what you guys think.
No, I think that's a great.
$160 million in deferred maintenance over the years, when we've reduced it down to $4 to $5 million a year to maintain 55 schools.
Not that we're gonna spend it, but we need to know.
But the ESCO that we're going after, is gonna capture probably half of that.
Okay.
All the mechanical systems, the lighting systems. and
$70 million?
But you still got, I didn't say, that's the deferred cost to do
Okay,
that.
oh, okay.
I think we can pick up a lot of it through that.
And what, we pulled 14 million out of capital this year? 15.
It was
Robbing
15.
Peter to pay Paul, and Peter's
It's
broke.
gonna be roughly 50.
That's about right.
So is his uncle.
Yeah, and his uncle.
We're gonna broke family.
So as again, this is great information. We'll go ahead and we'll put that together for the next iteration of the budget. Is there anything else that you have any concerns about, board members, regarding this before I move on?
Let me go back to Clarence's point, and this is really for the 5 guys. I understand the mechanics of what we need to do, but I think the other part of it becomes, in order for us to honor what you're talking about and really know as we're making these decisions in this budgeting cycle where those critical, I guess, pressure points really are. And so I would be curious to know, you know, when we talk about buses, or we talk about facilities, or we talk about technology, or whatever it is, how soon could we get that analysis that shows, you know, at adding 10 buses a year and our aged fleets dropping off X number per year with projections of what we're realizing 2021 becomes your critical year, and facilities with current growth projections and needs. I think that would be helpful, because to your point, you know, we know that we're moving 15 out of capital to fund operations, and, you know, we do it for good cause and good reason, but all we're doing is moving our problem over to the other side of the house. And so I think it really would be prudent. I know we're all trying to right this and say, okay, we can't keep moving money from one to the other to help and rob and Peter to pay Paul. But I think until we have that very clear information, it's going to be tough, and there's a lot of guesswork that goes into when are we going to hit that point. So I guess my question, guys, is, you know, Melba, how soon can you get that, guys? How soon do you want that? I mean, I'd like to see it sooner than later.
Would you want to see it
Before the
July?
14th.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Prior to the 14th,
Do we
so
have-
that you would have the information.
What are you looking for?
I think Mark has
calendar?
already,
Right
Mark
in
has
the
done
front.
some work on that, so he
second.
would have that.
Another
I
piece
know
of the
that
puzzle.
Angela also has worked on the technology needs,
Put
so.
it in one document. We've got
Yeah, we've got most of this done, so I would say a week prior to that. So how about, July?
Whoever's first
July
gets that
7th.
allocation.
No, no.
I've got mine.
I was going to say, someone's going to run out of the
Sure didn't
meeting
take long to
quick.
get it, now did
I pull up on my phone.
How about a week before, the next,
Oh, yeah.
July 7th?
That's fine.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
great.
July 7th?
That'd be great.
You guys good? Thank you. Good point, Clarence.
One thing I want to share with you too, board members, is on if you look at on non-capacity sources, again, I'm on page 2-6.
Wait a minute, let me get back to it. Okay.
Oh, you got your-
Go down to debt service, and if you, it's right in the middle, right, you see it? And you go across, you can see that the classrooms first is gonna drop off here at the end of 2016-17 school year. That's gonna free up, that's gonna give you, you know, $3.7 million more. So that's gonna really help. And I have
So
a,
now
I
we
have
got
a,
computers, now we need 18 schools, 3,000
Yeah.
buses.
and we'll have to work with Mark on trying to find some
Computers
buses
are
for
roughly
him.
20% of teacher computers every year. I mean, and then there's E-rate, which is gonna fund a lot of computer upgrades also, but you don't know what you get from E-rate until you get it from E-rate.
But that number's way down, right?
We're not getting any E-rate money?
No,
I don't believe the E-rate money can be used to fund computers.
No,
but
for
in- But in
computers.
some schools, they'll buy some new equipment, and you can take that equipment from that school might not be obsolete, and you can move it.
Infrastructure?
Yeah, we've done it.
That was,
We got one nodding yes and one saying no.
the infrastructure, the way that the E-rate works now, they give you a little bit of funding per school, and it doesn't allow you to do like we used to do, where you can outfit an entire school that has relatively decent equipment and be able to relocate that to a school. that
So they
wouldn't
changed the
qualify.
rules again.
They did this year, and we've applied for 9 schools, and the E-rate funding per school is much smaller. It's only gonna pay for a fraction of that. That's why you'll see in my budget that I'm trying to cover the rest of the
Okay.
costs to
Got it.
accommodate those schools.
Thanks, Russ.
Yes, sir.
so on the next page of the document, on page 2-7, this is a schedule that supports one of the line items on your non-capacity sources that under Russell, technology infrastructure of $1.3 million. This is that schedule that supports that. That's what you're looking at right now. And on the next page, on 2-8 of this is a comprehensive list, and this was reviewed by a committee in the facilities department on recommended repairs and maintenance that we want to tackle for the upcoming year, and that totals about $4 million
Now,
there.
can some of this be tackled with the SCAT? I see there's a bunch of HVAC and some stuff on
You
there.
can't wait on something.
I'd have to get with John on those. Those already, They could be, some of them may be offset by that, yes. These were prior projects that were, had gone through the committee last year and were graded number 2 and not funded. So what John did is took that list and let's move these projects forward.
I think maybe 3 or 4 of these don't get community.
Clyde, did you find out about the Narcousie?
That's going to be added to this, and in the next reading, you'll see.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
The total of all those cyclical capital renewals is about 4 million, and that's what you're seeing on this schedule. And that's the schedule that supports one of the line items under non-capacity
So
services.
I've got to ask a question about this, really for you, Clyde. Clyde, this question is really for you. Looking at these capital improvements,
Yes.
we don't need to replace any roofs? I know we don't have the money for it, it's not on here.
Actually, we went through and we have a comprehensive roof program.
Right.
We're doing, we've done some over at Alco, but not for this budget year.
Well, okay, so I know it's not in the budget, so we're in good shape is really my question.
We are, we really are.
Okay.
Our roofs are
Great,
in pretty good shape.
great.
We've had an aggressive roof program over the years, where we've gone in and done 4 or 5 schools at a time.
Right.
And we put metal roofs on, we're getting 20 years out of those, so we're in pretty good shape.
I know it sounds
right now.
crazy, but there are schools in this state that you can walk in, and when it rains, there's water coming, and they know, and there's nothing they can do. And you can see, like, the waterfall marks on the walls. and we
Just
don't
keep
have-
Neptune's roof clean, Clyde.
I know.
It's
that's-
on there, $8,500.
That's the biggest. It doesn't leak.
No, it just gets
It does
dirty.
get dirty.
Don't look very good.
Something will work.
It's the same roof.
If there's no further questions, I'm gonna keep moving on here. I wanna take you to page 2-12. And this is the one thing that I just like to share with the board. It's your debt capacity analysis. The percent indebted right now for what we're projecting for the 2015-16 year, or what we're actually gonna see is about 70% right there. So we're doing good. The current year, we're at 75%. We're seeing a reduction there, which is a good trend to see. As I shared with you, since those classroom first loans are going to drop off in the at the end of 2016-17 school year, you're going to see that it's really going to help with our percent indebted only being at 53%, and that's really the number we want to really be at, or a little bit below that.
Todd, are there any of these COPs or any of this debt that can be refinanced, that were in,
Yes.
that were at a point where we can refinance the state
Yes,
money?
yes, we are currently working on that right now.
Okay.
And we're looking at 2 issues.
Mhm.
I believe it's the 2005, McDally, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the 2005 right now,
Mhm.
and the sales tax, part of the sales tax. Okay.
2005 and what else?
The sales tax, but the sales tax doesn't affect your debt capacity, it's not listed in
Oh,
here.
okay.
Because your sales tax is paid for out of another fund, it's not.
Can we include that in that July 7th workshop to talk about our sales tax, where it's at, the timing that we have, and that sort of thing, just to kind of give us a lay of the land on that?
Is there anything new on polling for that?
Hmm?
Anything new on polling for that? I already talked about that.
I don't know, that's what
Okay.
I'm asking. I mean, I don't even know how many years we have left on ours or anything else, that's what I'm talking about, even more basic.
Okay.
What it generates.
Well, I think the county dropped their polling. They're not doing it.
Oh, the chamber was gonna do
Okay,
it.
and the last page I really want to talk about with the board, or share with the board, is, that wasn't included in your cover here, but it was sent out, it was on the website for everyone to look at, is your internal service fund budget. And I really want to just talk about your health and life insurance trust fund, and that would be on page 3-3. And what you're looking at, this is for projection for the upcoming school year. Okay, this is the revenue that's coming in, and really the majority of the revenue is coming from your board contribution that's supporting that, and your total expenditures you can see by month what we're projecting. That would leave us, we're projecting an operating loss for next year, which is not a bad thing in this particular situation, because our restricted net assets is gonna be right at about 12.9 million, or I'm gonna say $13 million.
Todd, when you say this is the board contribution up here in the revenue,
Mhm.
does that also include money that, where people pay for their
Yes.
families
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff?
you can see,
Okay.
you can see those small amounts up there.
So
It's included in
This
there.
doesn't
Okay.
include the 2 million out of the general fund that we're putting in towards the clinic. This is above and beyond that, correct?
This does not include the 2 million yet.
So
That's where I'm getting
that-
to with
The
my.
operating gain and loss actually close, it's over 4 million if you add that in
Yeah, so you hit on it, Mr. Wheeler, because right now we're in really great shape. Our health and life insurance trust fund is in really good shape, even through next year, because we have, and you can see in yellow there, it says your required reserve, we're required to have 3 months in reserve. So we're still have enough for next year. But the problem is you don't
Pretty
have
close.
money, yeah, you don't have money to build or construct a health and wellness center. So how you do that is you do that through your general fund, and that's the line item appropriation that we put in. And that's an employee benefit that would then flow through to your health and life insurance trust fund.
So once that's
To pay for
open, do we expect these expenditure numbers to decline?
Not right away. What we're hearing from in Polk, what we heard from Polk County is that you see a higher participation, because everyone wants to go see use the new clinic now. So we actually see the costs go up a little bit, but then it starts to tailor back down in future years. And that's what was shared with us by our Polk County
And
friends.
CJ, that's the piece I keep harping on to. When you look at that 51 million in total expenditures, we're only looking at about 5 million or 10% of that number going through the health clinic. And that's what the piece I'm having a hard time understanding, what the other 95% or 90%,
Clarence,
where
if you're getting 5 or 10%, that's still $2.5 to $5 million. That's not bad.
no, it's 5% is what's going through it. We're not saving the 5% or the 10%.
Well, hopefully over time we will.
Over time, I agree, but let's just say we do save 10% of it. I'd rather save 10% on $50 million than 10% on $5 million.
Sure.
That's my point. How do we drive more of this $50 million towards services that are provided in that clinic as opposed to,
I agree with, here's the other question, I don't know the answers. I mean,
I don't know the answer, yeah.
How much negatively, positively, or has been a neutral impact the Affordable Care Act relative to all this? And I don't know the answer to that either. I don't know if anybody in this room does. Go ahead.
There is little impact due to the only thing that we're being impacted right now that we're seeing, Mr. Wheeler, is that substitute teachers that work more than a certain number of hours now,
Mhm.
30 hours, yeah, 30 hours, Mama, we have to offer them health benefits now. So we will have to bring them onto our plan.
Even though the 30 hours is intermittent, maybe it's 30 hours for a 6-week period, and I mean, once they hit 30 hours any one week,
Well, I,
Is Tammy here?
yeah, Tammy,
Tammy's in the
she's not
back.
here.
yeah.
But it's, I don't think it's just in just 1 week, it's over a certain period of time, and I don't know exactly what that is, but I can bring that back.
that's a pretty big hit
There's
when
an
they cross that
evaluation
line.
period that we have to look back at. And during that time frame, if the average at the end of the time frame was 30 hours a week, those people you have to offer.
So with that said, right now, we paid the health insurance for our employees, for full-time. So are we gonna be doing the same thing? Would those be considered full-time employees, that they would get the same benefit, or would they contribute?
That's what
They'll get the
They'll-
benefit.
They would have
They
to be
would-
treated like any other
And-
benefit employee.
So they would get a
Sounds like
benefit
they
of
do for
6,000.
themselves.
What is it, 6,000?
So $6,100 something.
Yeah, it's 60, it's
6,000.
6108 right now is the board contribution, currently in the current year. Ken, we did an estimate of how many employees that would be. Do you recall that?
I think the last report we ran was 30, around 30.
So 30 employees would be added.
It's 6,600 or 6,100?
It's 6108 right now,
So that's
6100.
So it's
$190,000.
$180,000.
$190,000.
So there is a slight exposure to because of that.
I'm surprised it's just 30.
Me too. I mean,
That's,
Now,
Mhm.
Yeah, no.
Board, did you have any questions now regarding the packet that was presented to you?
The only question I've got is, and nobody can really answer because nobody's gonna know, is we don't know how much this is gonna change after the budget gets approved. I mean, it could change a little, it could change a lot, and that's the wild card. I mean, I appreciate going through this, but this is really an exercise in best guesses right now.
Best guesses and kind of preparing us all for what we're going to see and just filling in the correct
Well,
numbers.
I realize
correct?
that you extrapolated all this based on, institutional
Yeah.
knowledge and histrionics, but again, who knows what's gonna come out of Tallahassee.
Yeah, and you're 100% correct. 100%.
But I think they're supposed to be completed on the 20th.
We gotta do the budget for July 1st.
Yeah.
We're going to.
Yeah, it's prior, it's a week or so, it's the
Yeah.
20th or 24th.
Yeah, it's about the 20th, I think.
I have a couple of questions in the line items. Athletic insurance is a significant increase, and workers' comp insurance is a significant increase.
What page is it?
It's on page 16.
The athletic insurance, I didn't get a chance to get back to Jose on my end. We actually paid for similar coverage, and I think I'm pretty sure we had a 2-year rate guarantee on that. So that's really been.
Well, I'm referencing line 61 on
Right.
page 1-6.
Right. The $4,000 in the current year,
Mhm.
there was an expenditure of 243 or 240 something. I have to go back and look at that again.
Okay, so I'd like some clarification on that one.
So you think we spent 240 in 2015?
Yes.
So why is it not showing here under our 2015?
Do you know when
Okay.
do you know when it was, we'll have to go back and find out when it was paid and where it was classified.
Because it made, right.
It should have been-
It's probably classified in another line somewhere.
Yeah.
And then, same thing, about $200,000 when it comes to workers' comp on line 72.
72.
Yep.
It's another $200,000 increase. I'd like to understand the rationale behind that.
And I'm curious on the year-end assessments that were $750,000 this year, why they will be zero next year.
There's still conversation in regards to that.
Yeah.
We're having a meeting this week in regards to whether we want to continue giving the end-of-year courses. So we'll have a better number here.
That's what that.
Yes, yes. It's really creating the assessments, printing them, scanning them, et cetera.
Mel, the two other areas that I had identified I wanted clarification on is line 43 on that same page, 1-6, an increase in professional development activities. I just want to understand what that's going to be used for.
I'm sorry.
It's line 43. It's the third one down on page 1-6 from the top.
Here it is. Okay.
And it's actually the number 2 and number 3, the new teacher mentor, we're increasing. Not to have an issue with it, I want to understand it.
Mhm.
And then the professional development activities.
Okay. We have all that information.
Yeah, we do.
We'll be able to provide that
Here, let me,
because
hold on.
as each person creates the amount of money, they determine the amount of money, they also have to create a narrative as to how the money is going to be spent.
Sure.
And Todd has that information and will be able to submit that to all of you.
No,
Yeah, I had a question on 1-7, line 99 for the summer ops for guidance counselors. I want to make sure that included career counselors,
I'm
career
sorry.
specialists as well. I've had this conversation with Dr. Eggs.
I'm sorry, page 1-7.
1-7, line 99.
99, thank you. Summer OPS guidance. Does it include?
And you might know the answer, Mo, I don't know.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Does it include the
Could
career
be.
specialist?
Yes.
Oh, I see. Change, okay, I got it.
Okay.
I got Russell's lines 121 and 22, much similar to my other questions on buses and everything else. The district-wide telecommunications, is this adequate, or, I mean, is there a surprise here?
Which ones are you looking at?
Lines 121 and 122, which are district-wide telecommunications,
I'm sorry, what
and
page was that?
1-8. It's the top two lines on page 18.
Oh, 2150.
Just, you don't have to answer it now, if you just take a
No,
look,
okay,
or
well,
unless you know it, but
yeah. The district-wide telecommunications is another E-rate, solution there that they provide us money back on certain services, operational costs. So, I've worked with, Mel's group who does the E-rate applications, and then we sat down and went through every last detail on this, so that should be a good number.
okay.
And I'm sorry, the other one was 22?
Yeah, 122, the network hardware and software and maintenance.
Before you go to that, though, let me just get a clarification on what you said. The increase is a $172,000 increase. Are you saying that's offset by E-rate revenues?
A lot of it is, but the increase may or may not happen. I put the increases into the E-rate application, and a lot of that's for the bandwidth and for the Metro E. If we decide during testing that we're gonna hit our threshold again, then we'll have the application and the money in place to utilize it. It is only a difference of about $100,000, which is not that much in the grand scheme of things. But if it's not needed this year, then at least we were prepared if it does so happen that we need it. And that's what I was explaining to Todd. He was willing to work with me on that and Jose. So that's why the money's in there, and it may or may not need to be used. We won't utilize it unless we have to.
I got it.
If we don't put it in, then we can't utilize it in the E-rate application.
If we don't put it in-
100% out of pocket.
If we don't put it in, we're still gonna need it at some point. We're going to have to put it in no matter
One day
what.
you're
It's just
gonna need
whether
it.
we do it today or tomorrow.
That's correct.
And that's what I'm looking for, if we're running, if we're at risk here. By
Right.
doing, are we at risk by putting it off, or are we doing what we need to be doing here? Just so-
We're doing what we need to be doing. We
Okay.
put it into the E-rate application, that's the key thing, and then to have the funding set aside,
Mhm.
because if we do need it, if we didn't apply for the E-rate, then they wouldn't fund it, it would be 100% out of pocket.
Okay.
We might as well be prepared.
Okay, makes sense.
I got a question. On 1-7, line item 100, that's going up like 1.5 times pre-rental and heating from 15,000 to 40,000? Are we buying a pool?
What page? 1-.
No, we're not
1-7.
buying.
Not 7.
Yeah, I mean, it's gone from 15,000 to 40,000. And that's a
It's the
pretty good.
heating, I know that.
Global warming, should be going down.
That is,
Solar panels.
is that whole conversation about the heating for the swim programs and all that?
It is.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it's for. Yeah, it's, and that's what it is, the YMCA.
Swim season starts in August and September.
Second,
Yeah, so they
what was it
won't-
that you were saying about it?
It's,
Increasing the use of the YMCA next year, where we didn't use them as much.
Isn't that
this year.
contract we just approved a meeting or two ago?
It is, and what it was is that the last year, the YMCA said that they were not going to pay for any heating costs for the pool because they just simply can't afford it. And so they said, we're not gonna use the heater, which then precluded our schools from being able to use the pool because of temperature concerns. And then we went back to the YMCA and said, we need this pool for swim program and for the athletics. And they said, well, we don't care if you use it, but you gotta pay for the heat.
Okay.
Because if you don't pay for the heat, that's fine, but we're not turning the heater on because our members just won't have access to it because it's not financially feasible. And that was a meeting that we had with Tom and Dr. Akes and Susan McKay.
That's the increase in cost that's reflected on this line item?
Sorry?
Yeah, it's pooling, okay.
From the
So is
conservation
that-
where you pulled it from? Okay.
That's one of those, if it's warm enough, they won't have to use it, or they are gonna use the heater.
It's probably going to be used because if my memory is correct, the conversation surrounded the winter months of January and February primarily.
Yeah.
And the fact that during those months, late December, swim teams and all that, water polo and everything.
Water polo is a spring sport.
Spring sports start in February.
Okay,
they'll start.
I know swim
Start
season.
practicing in
They're
January and
swimming,
start in
they swim
February.
here.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
The other thing was that there was a change because one of the concerns that we had expressed last year or the year before was that there was an increase in the fuel cost. It had to do with rising fuel costs when it came to that as well. And that's what kind of prompted this whole conversation with the YMCA was, you know, if fuel costs are going up, don't just send us a bill, forewarn us so that we can make decisions to either use it or not use it. Don't just bill us and then expect us to show up with a check. So that's kind of what re-prompted this whole conversation.
And it wasn't all just YMCA, also Den John pool.
Right.
It was included in that, in the St. Cloud pool.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Russ, I know Mr. Thacker still had a question on line 122 on page I-8, 1-8, excuse me.
The network hardware, software, and maintenance?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what was?
Just the same question, and maybe you answered it. Do you have, is that enough?
Yes,
Or-
sir. What I
okay.
put into that budget should cover everything in there. There may be a slight increase.
We're not getting behind, though. We're staying,
No, sir, we're good on that budget.
okay.
Where's the line item for the health insurance consultant? Where's that? I didn't catch that.
That's paid out of funds. Is it paid out of funds? Okay. Okay.
Why is there a line item? I didn't get it.
It's paid through commission.
Commissions.
Yeah.
Commissions.
Can you,
Can you elaborate?
On the optional benefits, they take commissions, the vendor or the carrier pays commissions, and then we pay directly to.
So Cigna's paying a commission to Gallagher,
Not Cigna, no, like the dental and the vision and the disability program.
and they're paying commissions to Gallagher.
Yeah, with the cap, with our cap.
And so that's how they're getting the $250,000 that we pay them?
195.
It's all just commissions. Okay.
How does that work where a company pays them a commission to tell us whether we should use them or not?
That's an interesting question.
Things are done through our.
Wow, that's an interesting formula.
Melba, on page 1-8, legal fees, increase of 100,000 and change.
is that the one that we estimated, Jose?
That's 133.
You know, we do things for health insurance to try and reduce health insurance claims, you know, by wellness visits and all that kind of stuff. A lot of this money, I think, is claims where people are getting hurt and that sort of stuff. Do we spend any money on, I don't know what the right word is, prevention or risk management, I guess, where people are going around and looking at playgrounds and saying, you know,
Oh, yeah.
here's a bunch of nails sticking out of the boards, maybe we should fix that. Do we do
Yeah, that's
anything?
Mark Cavaney.
Mark
Oh,
Cavaney.
yeah.
That's actually health and safety.
Okay.
And per SREF, 10% of our capital budget is earmarked every year for health and safety. The annual report's coming to you tonight. A lot of those issues are in there.
Okay.
And we address those through capital, but it's identified on their budget as health and safety.
Okay.
Yeah.
We also work with the health and safety department, so like if we have an injury at a school site or workers' comp injury, we'll ask the health and safety folks if they would go out and investigate and see if there's something we need to do to take corrective action or
Okay.
something like that, so we work with them as well.
So let me come back to my question on the legal services. That's a projection based on what we're seeing, current trends, expectations. Why is the increase there?
That's 133.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really covering, there's no really increase to the retainer, but it's really the litigation portion of it. Contract administration, real estate, other contracts, contracted services by Mr. Helsby, also related to HR issues. So it's all being rolled up in that, and we're seeing an increase this year in legal fees. So it was a best guess of what we think is going to happen next year.
So what I'd like to see then is a breakdown in aggregate for the current year between the retainer fee, the litigation fees, the fees we pay to Mr. Helsby. I know we get the reports on a
I'm actually
regular
working on
basis.
That, I was going to address that tonight. This meeting, my contract's on tonight. I was hoping by the next meeting on the 9th to have, in fact, I saw the report for this fiscal year starting July 1 of 14. of all retainer services, but I had to redact out all the student names. So I know that'll be ready, but what I've asked them to do is also to take a look at all the things we bill above the retainer so that you can see the blended rate. And then I'm gonna show you what the Escambia County folks did. They analyzed their in-house attorneys and came up with, but we're not comparators to them because they're a medium-sized district, and in their report, we're the smallest large district now in the state. So we're like 18,000 more students than Escambia. So they specifically said the school boards that are large are not comparators.
Right.
But regardless, they're at about 100, their in-house attorneys are costing them $110 an hour. Our retainer services for the last 10 months average about $82 an hour, but the blended rate will be higher because we're billing at the higher hourly rate for litigation and personnel matters and such.
Right.
So I want to get that to you.
Yeah.
Plus, I also am looking at bond issues, and we're looking at the total amount of issues for the last 3 or 4 years. We're gonna look at the various fees and charges from all the attorneys and folks, because that was one of the board members asked for that, so we're gonna lump that in, and hopefully I'll give you more data to look at.
Yeah, and the same thing, and this isn't really directed at you at all, same thing with Mr. Helsby and the contract there. I think it's important that we understand where the money's being spent, and then when requests are being made, what the financial impact of that is going to be. And I know that you work very diligently to move things under the retainer where it's possible and make sure that, I know you do. And that's not lost on me at all, but I think it's going to be important for us and for staff to understand this is the financial implication of making a request like that, and that falls to us as a board or anyone else, so.
Well, a lot of what we do for this board, unlike a number of our other clients, like cities, right now we have 22 active litigation matters. All year, you've had an average of about, some get settled, some get resolved in various ways. You're always looking right now at about 22 lawsuits. Tanya sends us notices of claims and demands, which are just burgeoning. So I think that 22 rolling average is probably gonna go up. And one of the 2 most recent lawsuits last week that were served, Morgan & Morgan, and all it alleges is an elementary school child was hanging on the monkey bars and fell off and hurt himself. So I'm not sure what capital equipment, we have had cases in the past where kids trip over sprinkler heads or something like that, and they argue that we should have, shouldn't have been hidden by the grass that was too high. I mean, you get into some fairly difficult scenarios where it's hard to imagine what you could realistically do.
Sure.
To avoid a kid at recess falling off monkey bars.
Right. Thank you. Last question is on page 1-7, line 90, Office 365 training. Again, I don't need an answer right now on that, but I'd like to understand what we're implementing.
That's the Outlook training.
Well, that's why, yeah, that's why I'm asking too.
And as a board, there will be a workshop scheduled in August to share with you the details of the rollout plan that will encompass some definition of what these trainings will look like and where all of the costs are being expended for this project.
Yeah, and where it's going to be utilized and how and all that.
Including your timeline and your rollout and exactly what day you will have your new email system.
Yeah, good. Thank you, ma'am. Okay.
I really want to make sure that we have the line items that you have requested additional information for. So if you don't mind,
Hold on a second, let me get that.
it's at 1-6, we'll start there.
I gotta get something for Clyde to look up.
I'm waiting.
It's 1-6.
We're digging.
No, we're in familiar.
Which line number?
Okay.
I'm waiting,
She's waiting for me to get on the same page.
we need to be on the
The
same
end of
page.
your assessments.
Okay, we need information on 42,
42?
43. We will bring back something on 49, only because that was the end of year assessments that we're going to be discussing. No, 61, athletic insurance. 72, workers' compensation insurance. And there's nothing else on this page, is that correct? Thank you.
For now, yeah.
Okay. 1-7, number 90, the Office 365, FY99, which is the summer OPS contracts. I think that's it, because Jay, they answered 100 for you, correct? All right. 1-8, number 121, Districtwide Telecommunication, 122.
Actually, I think,
Yeah, no, we're good.
Russ,
You're okay?
I think he answered
You're
those.
okay with
Yeah,
that one? All right,
he was
and what
confident.
about 122?
Both of those,
Both are, okay, thank you.
He was able to answer.
Thank you. 133, we need information on that one, legal fees, and that's the only thing on that page, and that's it. All right, thank you.
Good. Board, anything additional? Questions?
May I suggest, just because we didn't mention one, if it comes to your attention that there's something that you want to supplement, just go ahead and footnote it and add it to this.
And if
Because
you,
this-
if you're looking at it, you may want to ask, and please do so.
Well,
I
with
just
your-
sense that some of these could have probably, you could have probably predicted a little bit, that an explanation would have been needed. I noticed that there's no footnotes or anything on them, but, at least with the next go-around, there may be something that maybe you just need to let us know, okay?
And in line with your follow-up, some of on the capital fund,
Yes,
the buses and some of those
Right,
things
and-
to give
and,
us the risk, the areas of risk.
we have that, thank you.
Okay.
Good. Todd, thanks for the presentation. Finance, thanks for all your work on pulling everything together tonight as well. Appreciate it. Thank you, Melvin. We'll stand adjourned.
19 people.